Hi, everyone, and welcome to Tutorial Tuesdays. Today, we're going to be talking about lighting. The reason why I wanted to talk about this today is because I finally have a setup that I can actually show you all some lighting tips and tricks to help everyone have a better broadcasting experience and also help your viewers have a better broadcasting experience when they're watching you. We'll jump right into it. But first, I'm gonna say hello to everyone. Hi, Lindsay. Thank you for coming in. Hi, Michelle. Hey, Joe. How's it going? Hey, Rodney. What wisdom will be bestowed upon us today? So today I'll be talking about lighting and trying to find the right lighting situation for your live broadcast, specifically for those that are indoors, and doing our best to kind of do that with minimal technology, having to buy less things essentially. Um, Before I get into the like minutia of lighting and all of that, I'm just going to quickly explain my current lighting system and situation. I have a pink light that's right above my computer, and that is actually just a bedroom lamp from IKEA that I already had laying around. And I got one of those color changing light bulbs off of Amazon that allows me to change the color off of my phone via Bluetooth. And I changed that to like match the HAPS colors with pink. On top of that light, okay, Janice, I see your comment. I will go check out your broadcast and see if we can figure out why that happened. So on top of that pink light, I also have a window that's slightly open to my left. And that's acting as a little bit of a filler light. So that's giving me some extra light here. And then to my right, I have another window that is east facing. So this window is north facing, and this window is east facing. And so what this light is doing is it's creating kind of like a backlight, right? So it's creating kind of this rim light effect, and it's just lighting this side of my face. So those are my three lights, and there's two natural sources in the windows, and then one artificial source from the bedroom IKEA lamp with a light bulb that changes color that I can change on my app. So that is just to quickly, briefly explain how easily you can manipulate light sources and make it so that you can have a very good lighting situation at home. But I'll also be offering up some alternatives. One thing, a trick that I like to use is, and I'm glad you're bringing this up, Lindsay, those Home Depot clamp lights are super cheap and a really good solution. I'd pair that up with a filter if you can find them. Even a baking sheet would do. So put that baking sheet in front of that light and it'll disperse that light a little bit more, creating a softer effect. The light I have up here actually doesn't have any filter in front of it, so that's why it's creating a very harsh cast on my face, very pink. I did that intentionally. However, you can put a filter that will allow you to have a more dispersed light source and fill your face a little bit more. Hey, Brian, good seeing you. Brian Kranz. I haven't seen you in so long. Thanks for joining. The HAPS camera when using my iPhone is so dark and contrasty in comparison to when I use my Android. It's so much more aesthetically pleasing. Interesting, Doe. I'll make sure to note that for our team to see what's the difference and what's causing that. It might just be a phone thing with iPhones and Androids, or it might be something in our app that's causing that. So with that being said, I quickly summarized the essentially 3-point lighting system that I'm using here in my home office, which is using one artificial light with a bedroom IKEA lamp, and then two natural sources of light with two windows that are helping me out there. Okay, y'all, sorry, I am not gonna be answering too many questions or reports during this broadcast. Otherwise, I'm never going to get to the tutorial. So I'm sorry. I don't mean to sound rude, but if I don't go through the report for the tutorial, I'm never going to get, I'm just not going to get through it if I'm going through all the comments. So if you all do have issues, use the new report an issue button that is in the bottom right hand corner of both the apps and on the desktop site. That helps our tech team get direct response to what you're experiencing, and that goes directly to them so that it doesn't have to go through me and then I have to go and send it to them. So if you do have any issues and you've been experiencing anything on that front, please send it that way. I know that there is a bug that was introduced to Android iOS, but we just released another update for iOS, and that is fixed that. So if you had problems with landscape, download the latest version and it should be resolved. All right, so with that being said, what I'm mainly going to be focusing on is essentially 3-point lighting, but also going into the ways that you can bypass using 3 lights in order to have successful lights. So first, let's understand what 3-point lighting is. So here is a good diagram of what 3-point lighting consists of. So imagine that the camera is actually between the key light and the fill light. And the object, as pointed out in this image, is you in the center. So the perfect or ideal 3-light situation is having a key light, which is highlighted here in the bottom left as number 1. That key light is essentially your main source of light. So in my situation, my key light is this pink lamp that is right in front of me, creating most of the light on my face. The second light that is important is your fill light, which is actually my window. So that's my natural source of light that I'm using. And that's a little bit further to my left. And that's creating a natural fill that is assisting that pink light so it doesn't have too much of a, too pink. Otherwise, I just look like someone straight out of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And then finally, the third light, and the light that I personally enjoy playing with the most, is the backlight. And the reason for that is because if you have a good backlight, that actually creates a really amazing rim lighting effect. So it can create a kind of like halo around your figure, around your head, or around your body that looks really cool if you turn off all of the other lights that you have set up. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up another image that further kind of shows an example of how these 3 different lights play a factor. So as you can see here, the first example here is the key light, and this is with no other light turned on. So you can see that there's a lot of shadows on the subject's face, especially below his neck. But the shadows that are happening on the right side of his face can be solved for by having either a rim or fill, depending on what side of the face those shadows are being caused. So as you can see, once the rim light is added, we start to see more of those shadows starting to get filled in, and also more of the background getting more light. So you can see here in the neck area, towards the back of the neck, there's kind of that like lighting that's coming from behind, thus creating kind of that halo effect from that backlight, that rim light. Next, and the final option is once you have all 3 lights turned on, and you can see that there's a very big difference, right? If you go straight from key to key, rim, and fill, you can see that the majority of his face is now lit properly. Even his neck is now lit properly, and the background is lit properly. So that's how you can use all 3 of those lights to more properly manipulate what's going on and what you're seeing when you're live. So with that being said, how do you achieve that, right? So I quickly broke down what I do and what I have, but I want to show you. So I'm actually going to take a second to pause here, and I'm going to join with my phone and show you exactly what I'm seeing so that you all can see the setup that I'm working with. 1 second. Alrighty. Okay, so let's do this, and then let's do this. All right, so welcome to my desk and what I see on any time of the day. So here is my microphone, and then here is the key light that I'm talking about when I say my 3-point lighting. So as you can see here, this is a normal lamp. It's an IKEA lamp. And I just plugged in a Bluetooth color adjusting light bulb to that. And that is now my main key light. And you can see that in my additional window, how the pink is the predominant light on my face. Right next to this key light, I have this window. So this window has a kind of a sheer curtain, and that automatically creates a filter. So it's bringing in less of that strong light, and it's more filtered and more even. So it's creating a more even light on my face. So those are my two main lights. However, I also have this window, and that window also serves as a backlight, right? As kind of like the light that you see here on this part of my face. So all of this here, that like shine that's happening there, is actually happening from that right window. So that's essentially my light situation. And it's very simple. I spent $10 just to change the light bulb, but I didn't have to change that light bulb. This was just a lamp that I had laying around. You can use any light as long as you learn the let me turn this off now that we're done here. Ooh, do not want to end broadcast. Let me just the ways that you can use a ring light, because someone kind of asked the question about that, and how to use a single source of light as your primary source. So one thing to keep in mind is that all light sources have a degree, right? And that essentially comes down to the color that they represent. So I'm glad you all tried reading my lips. That's hilarious. So we have the standard light degrees in Kelvin, measured in Kelvin, right? So on one end, you have 3,000, and on the other end, you have 5,200. In 3,000, you have more of like your orange lights, right? Something that we typically see with lamps, with at-home light fixtures, and stuff like that. On the other end, we have 5,200 Kelvin. 5,200 Kelvin is a better representation of light outside. So the sunlight, when we have shade, cloudy days, all of that light is essentially 5,200 Kelvin. So the thing that you all have to kind of keep in mind is that when you're using one light source as your main light source in front of you, is think about your whole space and how much light is hitting it and what degrees of Kelvin are hitting it, right? Do you have a light source that's 5,200 Kelvin, but then all of your other lights in your room are 3,000 Kelvin, right? Because that creates a competing light source. And in those situations, you'll often run into problems with appearing to be too yellow or orange. So what you want to do is make sure that all of your light is of 1 Kelvin. And then from that point forward, your cameras will do a better job of finding the appropriate white balance for you all. So in my situation, it's pretty easy for this little tiny webcam to figure out what to white balance me at. And I'm glad it's not doing it to the pink, but it's doing it to the predominant light, which is 5,200 Kelvin, right? So the windows that are bringing in light from outside is what's coming in to this room. And so this pink light allows itself to be pink. So if I were to throw a really cool different colored light back there, you would actually see the color it is, as opposed to it just being a light, because everything else is 5,200 Kelvin. I'm trying to make this as easy as possible, but let me try again. So sunlight has a certain degree of Kelvin that helps you measure how you can create inside light to kind of be as similar to that outside light as possible. All of this to say that in my opinion, the best source of light that you can have in your studios is a window. However, some of you are podcasters and some of you have very enclosed spaces because you need really good sound, and you don't want your dog's footsteps and barking to be in the background like mine are now. So, in those situations, the best thing to do is to try to replicate that outside window light as much as possible. And in order to do so, you want to use 5200 Kelvin lights. Now, when you go to Home Depot to buy a light bulb, they often show you the Kelvin, the degrees of what you will be getting out of that light bulb. As I mentioned earlier, all I'm using for my main source of light is a IKEA lamp with a light bulb that is Bluetooth color adjustable, and I have that set to the HAPS pink. And then the other lights is the natural light coming in from these two beautiful windows that I have to my sides. So one to my right, which is kind of doing this. It's doing this work here. And then one to my left. And that is doing this work here. Oh, this is all Greek to me. I'm so sorry. So essentially what I'm saying is natural light is best. Alrighty, so how can I get a decent light setup with minimal effort? And here's an example. So this is an example of something that required a little bit more work, right? They bought a light stand, they bought two lights, and then they set them up behind their computer. But as you can see here, there's only two light sources, but there's an additional third light, a room light, as you can tell, right? Like the room is very yellow, and I'm pretty sure that wall behind those computers is painted white, but it isn't white. And the reason for that is because the camera that they used to take this picture was white balancing for the light coming from those two light sources and the computer. So with that being said, the true white color that the camera was searching for came from these light fixtures, not from the wall, which is actually what you want to do. So in order to kind of solve for that, you would turn off all the other lights in the room and make sure that you only use these two lights as your key lights. So here is, again, the example of 3-point lighting. That is like the norm and what's used most often. I use this in my documentaries. I use this in my film days, learning broadcasts as well. It's such a go-to form of lighting, right? You have a key light, you have a fill light, and you have a backlight. Those three lights give you everything that you need for your lighting. Alrighty, that's it. Simple. So what happens when you can't afford to buy two extra lights and you don't have windows? Use lamps. Worst case scenario, use lamps in front of you. The best advice that I can offer you is a well-lit room, no matter how you light it, is better than trying to force one light to do all of the work for you, right? So one of the reasons why I don't like broadcasting in the evening is because my two fill lights aren't there anymore. The sun goes away, and now I'm stuck with just this light. However, I'm fortunate that I have ceiling lights that are actually you can see them there. There's three in the back and then three in the front here, and those lights are also in that bluer light, right? The bluer light that we get from outdoors. It's not great for sleeping. So if for example, if you have a bedroom, right? Well, if you have a bedroom in your bedroom, you don't want any of those blue lights because those blue lights actually manipulate your brain to think that it's daytime. So if you want better sleep in your bedroom, make sure that you have a more yellow light in there. A darker hue light, right? Like an orange or red is also really good to promote sleep. before bedtime. If you're doing any reading, light that with like an orange light as opposed to a very blue light, because the blue light is tricking your brain that it's still daytime. So light affects everything, not just your shot. So really think about your lighting situations and the colors that you're using um, when you're broadcasting, but also in your day to day and how that affects everything. Alrighty, so now any questions? We already have one. How about nighttime? Does 3-point lighting make up for the lack of sunlight? Yeah, I am going to answer your question. So, yes, a 3-point lighting system is often used in studios. And in those studios, no other light is turned on. It's just the light sources that are creating that 3-point lighting. Um, a really cool example of this that I found is when I was interning at the Today Show. And if anyone watches the Today Show, they use the window behind them as one of their sources of light. So that is their backlight essentially. They do also have some overhead backlights to kind of help with distribute and evenly spread out the lighting, but their main backlight is that window. On top of that, they also have the lights in front of the news anchors that are the key and fill lights. Granted, they aren't just using two lights to create that effect. They're using more, but they're using that same principle, key, fill. So that's something to keep in mind. What is your email address? I'll write it in the comments for you. Luis, thank you for your comments. I hope your selfies do get better. Oh yeah, Doe. That's definitely not your fault. Shadow lights. Okay, so um, I'm gonna do an experiment. So I'm gonna turn my camera off, and I'm going to shut some of the lights off, right, so that you all can see what this room looks like with less light, and also how that affects how I look, right? So so just take a mental note of what this looks like, right? All of the light that's hitting my face, and here we go. All right. So I can see, as you can see, there's a lot more pink on my face now, right? I'm completely blown out in pink. So the reason for that is because I've closed the window in front of me. Um, and that's causing this light to be my primary source of light with no fill. I have my backlight still, as you can see from back here. See that kind of like ring effect it's causing on my hand? How you can kind of see a glow, right? So this is how bad one light or lack of that one light affects your image. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera off one more time and change it again, and so you all can see the difference. Alrighty, so here is my setup now with my secondary fill light, right? This natural light coming from my window. However, now I don't have the backlight that is filling this part of my face. So you can see how every single light changes the way that I appear. Now this has more of a shadow effect, right? It's darker and more of the pink is more pronounced on this side of my face as opposed to where it was kind of more evenly distributed. So that's another thing to keep in mind when using three lights. They all affect what you then show in your live broadcast. I love that you all are enjoying the differences. So one more difference, and I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera one last time. I'm assuming you all can guess what's this last one going to be, but 1 second. So now this is what my boring face looks like without the pink light. So this is now just the outdoor window here and the outdoor back window here. So I'm no longer pink or have any pink on my face. But as you can tell, that then causes my webcam to have like almost like a bluish greenish hue, right? It's like something warm is missing. And I think someone asked about this earlier. Can you mix light sources and colors? You can, yeah. You just have to be careful about how much of those light sources you're mixing and where you're mixing them, right? Back here, this is a white wall. And you can tell that when I turn this light on, nothing happens to the color of that wall, right? But if my overhead lights were a more yellow color, then that wall, when I turn on those overhead lights, would turn yellow. My face would still be fine as long as I have this light and another bluish light here. However, that wouldn't help with the wall, and the wall is still going to appear yellow. So that's essentially what's going on. 3 lights, 3 simple light sources. That wall is also being lit by these 2 windows. And that's my simple light setup, and how simple your light setup can be as well. By the way, thank you everyone that stuck with it when I was talking for about 5 minutes without audio. Alrighty, let's see if I have any more questions. Do I need 3 lights for shadow lights? No, you don't necessarily need 3 lights. Something you can very much so get away with is a 2 light setup. If you have them split evenly to both sides of your face. So if you only have 2 light sources, try to have them so that the one light source is setting up this side of your face, and you can see the difference, right? Turn one of those lights off, and you'll see that one side of your face has great light and the other side of your face has a little bit of a shadow. Turn this second light on, and that'll fill the shadow, and then they're both kind of filling your face evenly. Oh yeah, lady, I saw your shadow box lights. That's a great setup. Anyone that has those like those box lights with the filters that kind of soften. It's called a soft box, I think, not a shadow box. So anything that has like that soft filter in front of it is going to be super beneficial to kind of spread light evenly across your subject or yourself. Let me see, more questions. Oh, thanks for joining, Banner. I'm glad you learned something. I think that's about it. Lindsay uses 2 lights, and my room light works good for my space. Yeah, that's a good example. As my day progresses and I get to nighttime, I no longer have access to my 2 window lights because, yeah, softbox. Thank you, Helen. The light outside goes away, right? Sunsets, and now I resort to, and some of y'all will see it if I join broadcast later in the evening for folks. My light is not as nice as it is here because I'm then dependent on the overhead lights with the pink light, and the overhead lights don't do a good job. I often have to, I hate wearing a hat in the evening because the overhead lights are just casting a shadow on my face. But yeah. Can you please have an addition of older devices? Not sure what you mean for that, Grizz. Do you mean support for older devices? Unfortunately, we're limited on that front. So Doe Darling, all your lights are flash and not continuous. So that's more of a photographer thing, right? So flashlights for modeling, for photography, all great sources of light. However, for video, for live, obviously not as beneficial. I use my LED lights in my room. That's a great source of light as well. Anything LED is going to be a really great source. Unfortunately, the Grizz show, we cannot support anything before iOS 13. I'll ask the team if it's possible to get to that point that we can support that, but right now that's not possible. Alrighty, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. If you all didn't know this already, there is a tutorial section on the site. You can also go to our YouTube page, HAPS, and find our Tutorial Tuesday videos along with some of the previous tutorial videos that I've made. From this point forward, every single Tutorial Tuesday will be downloaded, edited for my mistakes, like today, where I forgot to turn on my microphone again, and then re-uploaded it to YouTube so that you all can go back and rewatch those as needed. Another thing I wanted to shout out is a HAPS broadcaster, Aaron, is going to be doing a tutorial for OBS virtual cam. So I'll go ahead and throw that link here. So if you all want to learn OBS virtual cam, please go check out Aaron and his profile, and he will be doing that later today. Jen, I did leave my email. I'll leave it again 1 second as this link loads. Or actually, let me see if I can link his profile. Oh, there we go. So here is the link for Aaron's tutorial happening in less than an hour. So he'll be live showing everyone how to use virtual cam through OBS. And then Jen, I will leave you my email once again. Here you go. Alrighty, there you go. Another thing that you can do is if you have any bugs to report or issues to report, is to use the new report an issue button. You'll find it in the bottom right-hand corner with a little triangle. And that you can use that to report an issue, and that goes directly to our tech team so they can respond a little bit faster to it. So, alrighty, y'all. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you tomorrow for Wednesday Roundtable, where Peter will be hosting a few journalists from the platform and discussing how HAPS is used for journalists and broadcasting in that nature. So we'll see you all tomorrow. I'll be in the background for that broadcast unless Peter's internet isn't great. And we'll see you again Thursday for our community updates and Q&A, and Friday for our broadcast of the week. And don't hesitate to email me broadcast of the week. We really enjoy kind of getting feedback from you all and getting broadcasts that you all think should be shouted out on Friday. So thanks everyone for participating. Thank you for bearing with me with my audio and for getting to turn on my microphone. You all are the best, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.